Good morning, it's Thursday the 23rd of July. I'm Marit Gwyn and you're watching Europe Today, Euronews' morning show broadcast live here from Brussels. Coming up today, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has said he will discuss the war in Ukraine with the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov when they meet in the Philippines later today. US brokered talks between Kyiv and Moscow have stalled, but Rubio says there may be, quote, new conditions to bring both sides back to the table. We'll bring you more details. In other news, the European Commission has said it is preparing to accept new US tariffs in the coming days as long as they do not exceed the 15% cap agreed under the EU-US trade deal sealed a year ago. Trump is expected to announce fresh levies on goods allegedly made with forced labour. And the US has signed a landmark nuclear deal with Saudi Arabia, expected to allow the Gulf country to develop its own civilian nuclear program. The US Energy Department has described the deal as a peaceful cooperation agreement that will benefit American companies. But we start this morning in Latvia. Anris Kulbергs became the Baltic country's prime minister in May after the previous coalition government collapsed over its handling of stray drones. Latvia is, of course, one of NATO's frontline states bordering Russia on Europe's eastern flank and plays a leading role in supporting Ukraine. And Prime Minister Anдрис Kулбергс joins us live now from Riga. Prime Minister, good morning. Really good to have you with us on the show.
Good morning, Brussels.
Yesterday, your armed forces in Latvia fired a warning shot and used tear gas to prevent migrants from crossing from Belarus. Do you believe, Prime Minister, that Minsk and Moscow are instrumentalizing these migrants in order to destabilize your country?
I do not believe. I am sure. This happens since 2021. We're being tested, not just us. This moment, it is us. It is any given moment, it is our neighbors, Lithuania, Estonia, Finland, or Poland. Any of us are tested. This is a hybrid threat. This is a war threat. That's what Russia does. This is for sure because we can see that it is not just asylum seekers, what somebody might think of. They are really men, 18 to 25, with criminal past, with all given visas from Belarus. This is all organized from the top level of Russian mob as well. So this is an organized threat towards us to find a weak link. And we all have to do all the measures, take all the measures to prevent that.
And why, Prime Minister, do you think that this is intensifying now? Why is Putin deciding to target Latvia in this hybrid war at this moment?
Because he's losing in Ukraine. Simple. He needs to take attention somewhere else and have this action.
Prime Minister, I want to move on to talk about drones because the previous government there in Latvia collapsed amid criticism over its handling of incursions. What are you and your government doing differently to ensure Latvia is better prepared and protected against this threat?
We're not simple. We're talking the truth. We're not giving any anticipations which cannot be met. We immediately have, I appointed the defense minister, a professional not just from Latvia, but from the field in Ukraine, who has clear knowledge, clear experience of warfare, what is happening in Ukraine. So getting the best of the best solution for us. So we signed a drone deal with Zelensky. This gives us access to the Ukrainian know-how and implement the umbrella for our skies in the best possible way.
Do you think that the EU more broadly is moving quick enough on this? Because we know that this is a threat across the eastern flank. We know that the European Commission here are talking about a drone wall. Are you confident that those European initiatives will also work?
They will work, but they have to be much faster in speed. You pointed it out really correctly. We are not up to speed. We are not just Latvia. We're investing 5%, above 5, actually 6, above 6% in our defense, clear defense, not some buildings, real defense. But that is even not enough for the outside of European border, so eastern flank. We're defending all Europe, not just Latvia. So this is a matter which has to be whole Europe's matter for the defense. And this is an important point where we all have to be united.
And Prime Minister, when it comes to supporting Ukraine, obviously squeezing Moscow's war chest is very important. Yet we have now Greece blocking the latest package of EU sanctions against Russia as it seeks an exemption from the ban on Russian LNG. Does that frustrate you?
Well, I've been quite vocal about it, also on my speeches in our closed loop as well of the leaders. We have to understand what is the purpose of the sanctions, why we are doing that, why are we supporting Ukraine? This is number one question prior to anything else. Do we want Ukraine to win? Do we want to support Ukraine so that the bully gets its peace? Or what do we want? Or we want to earn money? So there's a choice. It's not both. So the sanctions has to be implemented. But above all, the best sanctions, what work today, are the long-range Ukrainian sanctions deep into Russian heart, which is gas infrastructure, petrol station infrastructure. That is the biggest pride what Russia has. That's their only asset, is selling gas. Now the pump versus propaganda, Putin's propaganda is working because the pump is winning. The pump where people cannot put their gas in their cars. That is the deepest sanction and a deepest signal to the whole society.
The latest sanctions package was also meant to include a full EU entry ban on Russian soldiers. Are you disappointed that this has been watered down in these negotiations?
I am because, well, first of all, this is sanction package 21. We should have done it in the first year, not in the fifth year. We're waiting, we're doing all that. Let's see how it works. No, if we want to win, we have to give it. Where was it? Remember, what happened in the first year? We said, oh no, don't shoot over the border. It's going to cause a chaos. It's going to cause... No. What happened? Nothing much has happened. But the escalation, so many Ukrainians had to die just because we did not take the decision timely enough. So I think it's in all our interests just to finally unite, push it through, and give the Ukrainians the momentum to use the momentum what they have now.
OK, Prime Minister Andris Kulbергs, that's all we have time for, I'm afraid. But thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon on Europe Today. Now we're moving on. The annual NATO summit earlier this month was hailed as a step towards a more balanced US-European relationship. It also reconfirmed Russia as an ongoing threat to the alliance. Today, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio is meeting Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov to discuss ending the war in Ukraine. This as the war on Iran shows no signs of subsiding. To discuss all of this, I'm glad that we can bring in our NATO correspondent, Shauna Murray, who is live for us from the NATO headquarters in Brussels. Good morning, Shauna. Great to see you. The Ankara summit earlier this month, I know you were there, proved quite a positive moment for Ukraine. Is there hope now that the US might do more to pressure Russia?
Well, good morning, Marit. Indeed, it was a step towards Europe really stepping up, bringing the establishment of NATO 3.0 with a lot of procurement, 50 billion euros in procurement for European capabilities. At the same time, as you mentioned there, it was a good day for Ukraine in Ankara because the United States allowed the licensing and manufacturing of crucial Patriot defence systems. And today, Marco Rubio said he is meeting his counterpart, Sergei Lavrov. The jury's out as to whether this means that it's a definitive moment, because we heard also Marco Rubio saying that he won't be putting too much pressure on Lavrov. Lavrov also saying he's going to question Marco Rubio, comments by US President Donald Trump, who said that the war in Ukraine is coming closer to an end. So to discuss this, I'm joined by Colonel Martin O'Donnell, who's the senior advisor to the Supreme Allied Commander of the European Forces here at NATO. Martin, That meeting today with Marco Rubio and Sergei Lavrov, do you hope something will come out of it because of what we've seen in terms of the signs of Ukraine doing much better on the battlefield and Russia really on the back foot?
Well, I think Secretary Rubio has said the meeting will comprise of a number of different things. We'll see what comes out of it in terms of peace. Of course, we all hope for and really want to see peace in Ukraine. The important thing to note, though, is until that point comes, NATO will continue to support Ukraine.
Yeah, but do you think that it's possible because of that, a signal that that Donald Trump gave the Ukrainians that they can manufacture and license Patriot defense missiles, that the United States is sort of a bit annoyed that Putin has not in any meaningful way come to the table when it comes to peace, that maybe the US is giving a little bit more support to Ukraine than we've seen so far in the past couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, President Trump has been pretty clear. He wants to bring about a peaceful end to that, to stop all of the killing. So then you see responses like you just described, and I think those are very, very positive movements towards peace.
On the Iran issue, because we know that the war there has started apace, and in fact it was at the NATO summit that Donald Trump decided that the memorandum of understanding was no more. That's not a good sign for NATO, because we know that Donald Trump was outraged that allies didn't support him in the initial days of the war. What do you think allies can do in defending the United States if they want to, and also the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, because that's what everyone's very concerned about?
Yes, I think it's not a good thing for anyone, right, that this is going on. That Iran has said, "Hey, we'll control the Strait of Hormuz." All the allies agreed at the NATO summit that you talked about that the Strait of Hormuz must remain free, and free it will. And if NATO can play a role, we've said time and time again, we will. A lot of nations, bilaterally, multilaterally, have sent ships already to the region. Nations are also supporting the United States in other ways. Bulgaria, for example, their parliament met yesterday, decided to support the basing of U.S. refuelers. That was followed by a statement from a U.S. European command saying that they will support Bulgaria with United States assets in the region if anybody thinks that they can threaten the United States or NATO. So these are strong reactions.
They are indeed, but the Iranians have responded to that and said that might bring Bulgaria as a party to the conflict. So there is a threat that this war in Iran could explode even further.
Well, look, we saw that when Iran fired missiles towards Turkey, right, a NATO ally. Of course, NATO defended in all of those instances, and we will continue to defend against any threat posed by Iran or anyone else to this defensive alliance.
Okay, Colonel Mark Donald, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
And back to you in studio, Marid.
Shauna, thank you so much, and thank you also to your guest there. Now, the European Commission is rumoured to be preparing to announce its first fine on Google under the Digital Markets Act, which is a set of laws aiming to rein in the power of big tech. This announcement could come as early as today. The move, of course, risks escalating tensions with the US administration, which is critical of the EU's digital rules. Well, for more, I'm joined in the studio by our correspondent Luca Bertuzzi. Luca, tell us first, what do we know about this expected fine on Google?
Yes, indeed, Marit. We have been hearing about this fine for a few days now, and it's rumored as imminent as early as today, even though we have no details about the total amount that is expected in the range of billions of euros. This is the culmination of a 2-year investigation into Google and accusation that the tech company is favoring its own services in search results and preventing app developers to communicate with users outside its app store and with alternative payment system. Now, the European Commission has been criticized for being too slow in cracking down on big tech companies, taking years to conclude investigations, only after the damage was already done and the competition squeezed out of the market. This is precisely what the Digital Markets Act is trying to avoid by bringing in a set of ex-ante rules meant to prevent Google and similar dominant companies to prevent European companies to compete in the same markets. This is the first investigation for Google, and it might be a testing bed for how Brussels is capable to make digital markets dominated by tech giants more contestable.
Indeed, and also the timing of this one is quite notable because tensions with the US are quite high. So how could this impact that US-EU relationship?
Well, indeed, there is never a dull moment in transatlantic relationship with Donald Trump in the White House. And as we heard before, Washington is preparing fresh tariffs as the current regime will expire in a few days. In the past, sanctioning American companies has proved controversial even inside the Commission, with senior officials working on a trade deal with the US pushing to delay fines. In this case, Brussels seems determined to go ahead nevertheless, but many will wonder how Washington will react.
Indeed, Luca, thank you for that. And as mentioned, that fine rumoured to be imminent. Now we're moving on. As efforts to enlarge the European Union gain political momentum, attention is now turning to how future enlargements will be financed. The cost of Montenegro's accession is already being debated as part of negotiations of the EU's next long-term budget. Meanwhile, some countries, including Germany, are pushing for a major overhaul of the bloc's enlargement rules. Euronews' Lena Roche sat down with Germany's Minister of State for Europe, Günther Kirchbaum, and started by asking him about Germany's recent proposal to allow candidate countries, notably Ukraine, to join the bloc in stages before completing all the required reforms.
First of all, it is a common proposal from France and Germany, and we want to give more credibility to the enlargement process. What does it mean? At the moment, we are negotiating with all these countries since a couple of years. More than 10 years. So ordinary people, they lose the faith. That means, they think this European Union, in reality, they don't want us. So giving back more credibility means to organize it step by step by step, not like a high-jumping competition like it was done in the years, all the years before, because it is not helpful. When I talk about a high-jumping competition, that means the bear is laying on 1.50 meters. But in reality, this acquis communautaire, which is symbolizing this bear, is not any longer like in former times on 1.50 meters, but on 2 meters, because the whole acquis communautaire changed. And this means it is more complicated for these concerned states to jump over it. In reality, it means to organize it step by step by step, not to substitute a full membership, but it is the case that we have to find a better approach and a better way to achieve it. And this is now why they propose this gradual integration. And this is important because after each step, ordinary people and citizens, they will recognize an added value. So this is important and means to find here association membership, with a membership in the Council, with a membership in the European Parliament, with a status as an observer, and so they can join. And at the same moment, we are giving a message also to other countries like Russia, like China. These states belong to us, to the European Union.
And what about the costs of the EU enlargement? Can the EU net contributors even afford this anymore?
Well, all this will be managed in the multi-annual financial framework. So we have a budget in the European Union, and for this purposes also the money which is inside this financial framework in this budget. So, of course, also in the future it will be guaranteed.
That was Euronews' Lena Roche speaking to the German Minister of State for Europe, Günther Kirchbaum, in Berlin. And that brings today's programme to a close. Thank you so much for your company again this morning. Remember, we also want to hear from you. Send us your feedback to europetoday@euronews.com. And in the meantime, take care and see you tomorrow.